Welcome to my 5-minute presentation on giving 5-minute presentations. I'm doing this because in one of my online communities, which is filled with a wide range of people of all backgrounds and professions, one of the members posted a question to the group asking what people could do a 5-minute presentation about. There are a whole bunch of cool answers: cooking and baking ideas, handling medical emergencies, working with children on the spectrum, and more. I love doing 5-minute presentations. It's a pretty good chunk of my job. So I figured I'd do a 5-minute presentation on doing 5-minute presentations. Maybe you already love doing this sort of thing too. Hopefully, some of my tips will still help you out. And for those of you who don't love giving presentations and avoid doing so at all costs, I hope that this will help you the next time you absolutely have to. First and foremost, you have to know what you're talking about. If you don't, if you're just reading a script, it'll be obvious to most people right away unless you're an amazing actor. But it'll be obvious to everyone, regardless of your acting skills, the moment the Q&A portion starts. Another way to think about this tip is to choose topics you are passionate about, as that ideally implies that in addition to strong feelings, you also have some hands-on knowledge and experience with the topic. Of course, this isn't always possible, so if you're given a topic not of your own choosing, well, brush up on it before building your presentation. It's important to know your audience. Do they share a passion for the topic? Do they have some level of experience? Or are they coming in as a blank slate? You'll want to build your presentation based on who you think your audience is. This isn't just about the content itself, but also the language you use. Everyone does some level of code shifting. We speak differently to our friends than we do to our teachers, differently to our siblings than our employers, and so on. One general rule of thumb: unless you are really certain how people will respond, keep it clean. Another important thing is not to fill the screen up with a lot of words, because people will be distracted trying to read while you're talking, and they'll capture neither what you're talking about nor the content on the screen. So it's really, most very truly, incredibly important to keep it clean. Although, this time, I'm talking about your slide content, not your language. It gets a little more complex here, but building a narrative is incredibly important. We are a storytelling species, and we've passed knowledge and culture across generations and continents with stories that help the listeners get engaged so they could really absorb the information contained therein. Without some sort of narrative arc, a presentation is just a list of facts that nobody will care about nor remember. One of the most common story structures is the hero's journey, which Joseph Campbell described and which Dan Harmon distilled down to these 8 points. You, the main character, think Luke Skywalker on the desert planet of Tatooine, needs something. Luke longs for adventure, and that adventure falls in his lap with the arrival of a message from Princess Leia. His aunt and uncle dead, nothing is keeping him on Tatooine, and he leaves the only home he knows to go and search for her. Once they track her down and make their triumphant return, Luke is changed, a decorated hero who will never return to his moisture farm. Of course, it doesn't have to be that complex. The idea is that you need to make it personal. I was intrigued by a challenge from a social media group I participate in, and I thought there are probably lots of folks out there who may need to do something I do all the time, but they don't have the tools. So I accepted the challenge to make a 5-minute presentation about making 5-minute presentations that would help others on their quest to do the same. I wrote my outline, started building my slides, considered sources, decided on a minimal text-only visual style, filled in the details of my script, revised and edited as content either distracted from the main point or made it impossible to stick within the 5-minute constraint I'd agreed to. And once I finished my presentation, I took a look at what I'd done and thought, you know what? This is something people could use. But this isn't about giving a person a fish, right? Luke isn't going back to that moisture farm. Hopefully, if I've hit my mark, my audience will have acquired a foundation of what they need to do, and after some practice, after some experience, they'll be thinking, what's next? How can I make my presentations even better? They'll be thinking about things that maybe they can teach me. They can apply these concepts when they're pitching a project or asking for a raise or proposing marriage or raising a kid, or even just making a case to their friends about what restaurant to go to for dinner. So the narrative-related topics were tips 4 through 9. If you've got all those down and you've researched your topic, built a presentation and a script perfectly tailored to your audience, including a compelling narrative which will keep that audience on the edge of their seats, the most important thing you can do now is rehearse. Everything is better with practice. If you don't rehearse, you'll forget things, you'll do things out of order, or worse yet, you'll just read off the slides. That's no good. Rehearse, and make your presentation smooth and comfortable for yourself, and it'll be enjoyable and informative for your audience. This is most important for live presentations, but every bit of rehearsal will improve audio and video recordings as well. So that's the 5-minute presentation. It didn't cover everything. For example, I didn't touch at all on visual design. There are lots of different ways to approach this aspect of your presentation. I chose a fairly stark, text-only presentation, but there are other ways to do this. Another option might be something like the carousel pitch presentation in the TV show Mad Men. All the slides are just photographs, with the message underscored by a spoken narrative. It's one of my favorite presentations of all time. Also, one of my favorite resources for tips on presentations is the Presentation Zen blog. They go deep on this and related topics. There's a lot more to learn than could possibly be presented in 5 minutes. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to @ me at Benomatic on Twitter. Also, if you'd like to support my creative pursuits, please check out my app, CB, which is a voice-based social network modeled on CB Radio. Thanks again for watching, and keep presenting.